It started with a sound that didn't belong. Not birds, not wind, not the distant hum of traffic miles away. No, this was heavier, louder, aggressive. A low, grinding roar like metal tearing through something it shouldn't touch. I stepped out onto my porch just as the first light of morning stretched across the horizon. The air was cold, quiet, too quiet for that kind of noise. For a second, I just stood there listening, trying to place it. Then I saw it. My stomach dropped. The land, my land, was torn apart. Fresh tire tracks carved deep into the soil, cutting across the grass like scars. Not one set, not two. Dozens. Wide, heavy-duty treads. The kind that didn't belong to pickup trucks or delivery vans. These were construction vehicles. Big ones. And they hadn't just passed through, they'd driven straight across my property, like it was a public road. I stepped forward slowly, boots pressing into the churned-up dirt. The ground was still soft, still damp. Whatever had done this? It happened recently. Very recently. I crouched down, running my fingers along the edge of one of the tracks. The soil crumbled easily. Fresh damage. My jaw tightened. Not this again. At first, it had been small things. A random ATV cutting across the far end of my land. A delivery truck accidentally using my field to turn around. Each time I handled it calmly, politely. I put up signs, marked the boundaries clearly, even installed a basic wooden fence along the most vulnerable edge. But someone kept pushing, testing, seeing how far they could go. And I already had a pretty good idea who that someone was. I stood up, eyes scanning the tree line, and that's when I heard it again. Engines, multiple this time, louder, closer. My head snapped toward the far end of the property, just as three massive construction trucks burst through the narrow opening between the trees. They didn't slow down, didn't hesitate, didn't even look like they were considering stopping. They just drove straight in, right onto my land. My fists clenched as I stepped forward, raising a hand. "Hey, stop!" The lead truck slowed slightly, tires grinding deeper into the soil before. Finally coming to a halt just a few feet away from me. The engine rumbled like a warning. The driver leaned out the window, barely glancing at me. "You might want to move," he said casually. "We've got a schedule to keep." I didn't move. "You're on private property." He sighed like I was the inconvenience here. "Talk to the HOA," he replied. "We've got clearance." There it was. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Not here," I said firmly. "There is no HOA here." He gave a small shrug like it didn't matter either way. "Not what we were told." Behind him, the other trucks idled impatiently, engines growling, ready to push forward. And then I saw her, standing just beyond the tree line, perfectly still, watching. Karen. Of course it was her. Even from a distance, she looked exactly the same as always. Perfectly styled. She raised her hand slightly and gave a small, almost polite wave. Like we were neighbors greeting each other. Like she hadn't just sent a convoy of trucks across my land. That wave told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion. This was deliberate. Calculated. Planned. I turned back to the driver, my voice calm, but sharper now. "You need to turn around." He let out a short laugh. "Yeah, that's not happening." He tapped the side of his door. "We've got permits, orders, deadlines. You're gonna have to take it up with someone else." I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. The truck, the license plate, the damage, the other vehicles behind him, everything. The driver watched me for a second, then smirked. "Go ahead," he said. "Doesn't change anything." I tilted my head slightly. "It will." For a brief moment, there was silence, the kind that sits heavy in the air. Then one of the trucks behind him blasted its horn, breaking the tension. The driver sighed, clearly done with the conversation. "Look," he said, "we're not here to argue. Either move or don't. But we're going through." I held his gaze for a second longer, then stepped aside. Not because I was giving up, because I was done warning. The moment my boots left the path, he didn't hesitate. The truck rolled forward. Slow at first, then faster, crushing through the soil, deepening the damage, leaving even bigger scars across my land. The trucks behind him followed immediately, one after another, like a convoy that had done this 100 times before, like they knew no one would stop them. I stood there, watching in silence as they cut across my property. Every second they stayed, every inch they covered. made one thing clear. They weren't testing boundaries anymore. They had decided those boundaries didn't exist. And Karen, she was still standing there, watching, smiling, confident, like she had already won. I slipped my phone back into my pocket slowly. Eyes still locked on the destruction unfolding in front of me. Most people would have reacted right there. Yelled, threatened, maybe even tried to physically block them. But that's exactly what she wanted. A scene, a mistake, something she could twist. No, if Karen wanted to play this game, she picked the wrong land. Because I don't fight loud, I fight smart. And as the last truck disappeared toward the far end of my property, I turned back toward the house, already running through everything I needed. Property records, survey maps, legal access rights, permits, every piece of paper that proved one simple truth. This land was mine, not hers, not the HOA's, mine. And if she thought she could just roll over it, I glanced back one last time at the deep, ugly tracks carved into the soil. Her trucks might have had the advantage this morning, but by tomorrow, they wouldn't be moving at all. Because I wasn't going to argue with her. I wasn't going to chase her. I was going to stop her. Cold. By noon, my land didn't look like land anymore. It looked like a construction access road. The grass was gone, flattened into dark, muddy streaks. The soil was ripped open, churned so deep that even my boots sank with every step. Tire tracks overlapped each other in thick, ugly layers, cutting a path straight across my property like it had always been meant to be there, like I didn't exist, like my ownership didn't matter. Another truck thundered past me, barely slowing, its massive wheels grinding deeper into the earth. Dust and dirt kicked up behind it, coating everything in a thin gray film. I didn't move this time. I just watched. Counted. 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks in less than 10 minutes. This wasn't occasional use anymore. This was a full operation. And every second it continued, the damage got worse and more expensive. I pulled out my phone again, recording now instead of just taking photos. Slow pans across the destruction, close-ups of the tire depth, wide shots showing exactly where those trucks were entering and exiting. Evidence, not emotion. Because people like Karen didn't care about yelling. They cared about leverage. And I was about to build mine. I walked back toward the house, boots heavy with mud, and headed straight inside. Within minutes, my dining table was covered. Old folders, rolled maps, stamped documents. Everything I'd kept over the years, organized, dated, untouched until now. I unrolled the largest survey map and flattened it against the table, holding the corners down with whatever I could grab. There it was. Clear as day. Boundary lines, coordinates, legal, markers stretching across every inch of my property. And right where those trucks were driving, dead center. No overlap, no shared access, no easement, nothing. I grabbed another document, property deed certified copy. Same result. Then another, county records. Same. And then I found the one I was looking for, access rights. Or more specifically, the complete absence of any granted access to the neighboring HOA development. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, that's what I thought. I snapped photos of everything, then scanned them into my phone. Multiple backups, cloud storage, email copies, no mistakes, no missing pieces. Because if this went where I thought it was going, I needed it airtight. Outside, another truck roared past. Still going, still confident, still acting like nothing could stop them. I stepped back onto the porch, arms crossed, watching the operation continue like I was invisible. And then, click, heels on wood. I didn't even need to turn around. Busy morning, isn't it? Karen's voice was smooth, controlled, almost pleasant. Turned slowly. She stood there like she belonged. Perfect posture, sunglasses still on. That same clipboard tucked under her arm like it was part of her identity. You're trespassing, I said flatly. She smiled faintly. I'm observing. From my porch? She didn't answer that. Instead, she glanced out at the land, watching as another truck cut across the property. You know, she said casually, this really could have been handled differently. I let out a quiet breath through my nose. Yeah, I said, by not sending trucks across my land. She ignored that completely. This development is bringing a lot of value to the area, she continued. New homes, new families, higher property standards. I tilted my head slightly. None of which involves me. Her smile tightened just a little. Everything in this area is connected, she replied. Whether you like it or not. No, I said calmly. Legally, it's not. That hit. Just enough. A flicker. But she recovered fast. Well, she said, adjusting her grip on the clipboard, our contractors have permits. For your land, I corrected. Not mine. She stepped a little closer. Temporary access, she said, like she was explaining something simple to a child. Illegal access, I replied immediately. Her expression hardened for the first time. It's a matter of interpretation. I shook my head slowly. It's a matter of property law. For a second, neither of us spoke. The sound of engines filled the silence between us. Then she leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I met her gaze without hesitation. And you're making it expensive. That made her pause. Not long, but enough. Then she straightened again, that same controlled smile slipping back into place. Good luck proving anything before we're finished, she said. There it was. Her strategy. Speed. Push everything through fast enough. Cause enough damage, build enough progress. And by the time anything legal caught up, it wouldn't matter anymore. The path would be established. The usage would be normalized. And undoing it would be harder than allowing it. I almost smiled. Almost. Because that plan, it only works when the other person reacts slowly, emotionally, predictably. I wasn't going to do any of that. I stepped past her without another word and walked back inside. Behind me, I heard her heels click against the porch again as she left, confident, controlled, completely certain she was in charge of the situation. She thought she had time. She thought I'd file complaints. Wait weeks, argue in offices while her trucks kept rolling. She thought wrong. Inside, I grabbed my phone and made 3 calls. First, to confirm records and file an official complaint. Second, to report active property damage and unauthorized commercial access. And the third wasn't about paperwork. It was about action.